Hello, my name is Dhruvi Gupta and today we are going to discuss about classification of cost according to element and according to nature. So, what is cost? The monetary value of resources used in production of goods and services is called as cost. Or we can say it is the monetary value required to acquire, reproduce, or maintain something. Also, it represents the amount of money, effort, time, or other resources expended to achieve a specific goal or to obtain a product, a service, or execute a process. So, it is necessary to classify cost. So, classification of cost helps businesses in budgeting, pricing, decision making, and cost control. So, there are two types of classification of cost we are going to discuss today, and those are element and nature. So, according to nature, the classification is material, labor, and expenses. And according to nature, it is fixed, variable, and semi variable. So, let us first see what is the classification of cost according to element. So, the overview is the costs are classified based on the type of resources they represent. So, there are three types: material, labor, and expenses. So, according to Indian accounting system, we can classify the cost into direct cost and indirect cost. So, the direct cost are direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses. And for indirect cost, those are overheads, the factory, administration, and selling and distribution overheads. So, let us first see material cost. So the material cost has two types, direct and indirect. So let us first see about direct material cost. So cost of raw materials and components directly used in the production of goods and services. It is called as direct material because the cost that has been incurred is used directly to produce something or directly used in the manufacturing process. So example is cotton in textile industries. The second is indirect material cost. So materials used for general purposes but not directly traceable to single product. So for example, we can take cleaning supplies in a manufacturing facility. So in a manufacturing facility, there can be multiple products that are being produced. So we can't say that particular cleaning supply is used to produce a single product. So the cleaning supplies are used for the overall manufacturing facility. That's why it's indirect material because it can't be traceable. Second is labor cost. So there are two types, direct and indirect. So let us see indirect labor cost. It says wages paid to workers directly involved in the production process. So for example, factory workers assembling products. So the factory workers that are assembling the products, so they are directly involved in the manufacturing process. That's why the direct labor cost. And the next is indirect labor cost. So wages of workers who support the production process but are not directly involved in it. So for example, supervisors, maintenance staff. So supervisors are just supervising the factory workers who are actually producing or helping in the production process, but supervisors are just supervising them, monitoring them, so they are not directly invested in the manufacturing process. That's why they are included in the indirect labor cost. Next is expense cost. So there are two types, indirect and direct. So we can so let's see about direct expenses. Expenses directly related to the production of goods and services. For example, royalties on patents used in manufacturing. Next is indirect expenses. General business expenses that are not traceable to a specific product or unit. For example, rent, utilities for the factory. So all the expenses that are directly involved in the production process is called as direct cost. It can be material, it can be labor, it can be normal expenses. And those costs which are not directly related to the manufacturing processes but are complementary or that are required. So those are included in the indirect cost, like indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. So next, let us see about classification of cost according to nature. So the overview of this is classification based on the behavior of cost with changes in production level. So according to the production level, how the cost changes, it is according to nature. So there are three types: fixed cost, variable cost, and semi-variable cost. So let us first see what is fixed cost. So the definition says cost that do not change with the level of production or sales. So the cost which do not change with the production level and which are fixed at any circumstance is called as fixed cost. So the characteristics are remain constant in total with the relevant range of activity. So within the relevant range, the fixed cost remains changed. After a certain range, the fixed cost also increases. If the production level increases up to a mark, then the fixed cost may vary. And second characteristics is that it is indirect in nature. For example, rent of a factory building, salaries of permanent staff, and depreciation of machinery, which can't be ignored and which are fixed. The salary of the staff is fixed, the permanent staff. It can't be removed, or the cost or the salaries required for temporary people that are not included in the fixed cost, as fixed cost remains same at any level of production or sales. Next is variable cost. So the definition says costs that change directly with the level of production or sales. So fixed cost and variable cost are exactly opposite. Fixed cost doesn't change with the level of production or sales, but variable costs change directly with the level of production or sales. So the characteristics of variable cost is directly proportional to production volume and variable in nature, because the production volume always varies and isn't fixed every time. So that's why it is variable. It varies with the production level and it is directly proportional. If the production level is 100, so the variable cost will also be in the ratio of 100. And if the production level changes to 200, the variable cost will also change to the proportion of 200. So for example, raw material cost. So a particular, to produce 200 units of product, we need 1000 rupees of raw material. So it will be varied. So it is 1000 rupees variable cost. And if the production is increased to 3000, so suppose 1500 rupees raw material is required, so the variable cost will change, but the fixed cost will not change. And second example is direct labor wages in piece rate system. So piece rate system is that on a particular piece, there is a rate. So if a person produces or installs three products or three pieces in a day, so he will get the rate of three piece. And if a second person produces or fixes 10 products or 10 things, so he will get the price according to 10 pieces he installed or produced. So it is called as piece rate system. Next is energy consumption. So if the production is low, the energy consumed will be low. But if the production is large, then the energy consumed also will vary. So the variable cost are those costs which change directly with the level of production or sales. Next is semi-variable cost. So its definition says costs that have both fixed and variable components is called as semi-variable. That's why the word semi-variable, that half of it is variable and half of it is fixed. So its characteristics are fixed component remains constant while the variable component changes with production. So it's a mixture of fixed cost and variable cost. So for example, telephone bills, the fixed monthly charge plus usage based charge. So basically the telephone companies keep a minimum charge that is fixed if even if you don't attend a call or if you don't call any other person. And so that cost is fixed. And if you call a person, if you call 10 persons, so according to that, the cost adds. So these are called as semi-variable. Second is utilities. Fixed charge plus consumption based charge. For example, we can take for electricity. So electricity bills have a particular amount that is fixed. Even if you don't use any electricity at home or any place, they will cost a particular charge even if you don't use it. So that component is fixed, and according to the usage of electricity, the other cost will add on. So the fixed charge plus consumption based chart. So um, we can conclude that the classification of cost according to element and according to nature. Thank you. That's all from my side. Thank you.